Hi there, welcome to Mini Math Lessons with Karen, and today I am focusing on some calculator activities, and I'm just going to do a brief overview of some of the functionality you might need for these activities, even though the activities themselves have built-in sort of tutorials or guides, hints, but I'm going to walk through just a couple of them. So I'm using the Casio fx-9750GII, which is one of the graphing calculators that Casio has. The nice thing about Casio is if you know how to use one graphing calculator, you know how to use them all because they have the same buttons, the same functionality. And so this is a really nice one because it's really relatively inexpensive, but has all the power of any graphing calculator. So it's one of our more popular models, and I love it because it's so easy to use. So here I am, this is menu oriented. So run matrix is sort of where you do your calculations, statistics where you enter table information, graphing is obviously where you enter functions and graph, and then there's the dynograph, which is really nice as well. So lots of things you can do. I'm just going to go through some basic ones. So here's one of the activities. We have two of them, fun with functions and line up algebra. So I'm just going to walk through real quick some things that are in these activities. These are nice activities. They're free resources. They say that they go with 9750G3, but G2, any calculator, graphing calculator, you could use them with. And especially if you have Casio, then the button steps are exactly the same. So basically what's nice here is it gives you the standard. It's an NCTM standard, so you can apply it to any curriculum you're using. Some things to look out for, and then there is this how-to kind of, if you don't know how to use the buttons, here's how to store things, here's how to use the tables, here's how to make a scatter plot. So all of this is sort of built into the activity. So I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to show you some of it, but if you really want to go back, it's right there in the activity, and I've provided a link to the activities in the description of the video. So I'm going to scroll into the actual activity. So the activity, you have this information about functions. We're basically discovering some things about functions. We're looking at these forms of the function, slope-intercept form, standard form, and how can you use that to help you answer questions about functions. So the first ones are kind of basic. You know, here's this function, and can you tell me what the function's value is at f of 4? And so here's what I like about these types of activities is it's helping students learn to realize when they should use a technology tool, a calculator, or not. This particular one, let's hope they don't think they need a calculator for this because this is a simple manner of substituting in one value for the variable of x and solving. So 3 times 4 is 12 plus 7 makes 19. I didn't need a calculator. I could use my calculator to verify my solution, but I didn't need to. But then if we come into the second one, it's also evaluating a function, but for several values. So again, yes, I could do it in my head, but if I have lots of them, maybe I want to use the functionality of a calculator to help me get all the solutions really quickly instead of all of them taking a few minutes each. So I did want to just point out how to use a table. So in this case, let's go down to the table. So you'll notice here's my menu, and I'm going to go make a table that comes from my function. So it asks me for my function first, so we're going to enter this function in here, and you're just going to enter what you have, -2. Here's where you enter variables. So when I hit that, I get my x minus 5. And in the Casio, oops, I forgot to hit my minus 5. To set something, you hit execute. Right, that sets it. So now I'm ready to look at the table and evaluate for more than one at a time. So up here was one at a time, here I need several. So I'm going to make sure my table is set up. So if I look at my table, I want my table this time to start at -5. So all I'm doing is setting up my table to include the values that I'm interested in. And so I want it to end at -1. And it says right here, all integers, so I do want it to step by 1, so that's good. I'm going to leave it. So now I'm going to hit exit. Exit always gets you back to the thing you were before, so here I am again. Now let's actually look at that table. And now I have all those values, evaluating the function for each one of those values. I have them all in a nice table. It did all the work for me because I already showed that I knew what I was doing, so now I'm just saving some time here. So you can do that in the next one. So here, this next problem, and let's escape and go back to our menu. This next one is, here's this list of values, and we want you to determine the function that goes with it. Well, students could do this by hand for sure. They could say, okay, I just need 2 of the points on this, and I could find the slope, and I could do that in my head. So let's use these 2 points right here. So the difference in the y's is 8 minus 5. That's 3. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So my slope must be 3. And so then I can't figure out the y-intercept. So what am I going to do? Well, I could use the point slope form, right? So there's lots of ways that they could do this on their own without a calculator, but then they could also then verify with the calculator once they determine that what their function is. So I'm going to show you how then they could use the list features of the calculator to verify what they might have done by hand, or they weren't sure what the intercept was. If they were trying to do slope-intercept form, how could they have figured it out? Well, they could have used the point slope and then solved for y, right? So let's go into stat. So notice again my menus. I'm using the arrow keys to arrow up and over. I'm going into the stat menu because that's where I'm going to enter my list. And it's a blank list right now, and I'm simply going to just enter the numbers that I see here. So to do that, you just put the numbers in, hit execute, it moves you down to the next row. So we're going to enter the numbers that we see here, and then arrow over, that brings us to the top of the next list, and let's enter these: 2, 5, 8, and 11. And then I want to, oops, looks like I didn't put 11. Let's try 11 again. There we go. All right, so now I want to make sure that my graph is set up. So I'm going to hit graph, and this is a stats plot, statistical plot. So I want to look at the graph, and here is my stats. So it does look linear, right? I can have the calculator now calculate what that slope would be. So I hit the calculate button. So notice everything in Casio, whatever is under is the function you hit. So if I'm looking for two variable statistics, I'd hit F1. Right now I'm looking for the calculation with the variable X. So I'm going to hit F2. And I have a choice, and which one is the one I want? Well, I want this one right here. So I'm going to hit F1. And now it gives me what it's saying is the function. And notice it matches the slope I already determined on my own, but here is the intercept at -1. And so, okay, that makes sense. So my function is y equals 3x minus 1. So now if I hit draw, it's going to put that function over my statistical plots. So lots of ways you can use the calculator. You can have them do it by hand and then use the calculator to verify. You can actually have the calculator plot the points and use a regression. But many ways that you can think about doing these types of things with the students. And so over here, we're now having a real world situation, and you're going to basically get into the same idea of how could you write the function, how could you maybe plot, create a table. So you're going to use all of these functionalities. So that's the first activity. I'm not going to go too much into the second activity because it's very similar. It's got questions. It wants you writing expressions that match this and then testing them out. Make expressions, what functions go with those, what do those points look like. So you're going to be going back and forth between tables and graphs, those types of things. So have fun with these. There's lots more free activities available, and I'll be coming back more with some of the graphing calculators to show you some more functionality.